Some horror games try to scare you with monsters, but the most terrifying ones are the ones that feel almost real. If you're new to the channel, welcome to GamesRanked, where we break down and rank some of the most fascinating games in the industry. Today we're looking at 10 horror games that push realism to the extreme. These are games where the graphics, atmosphere, and presentation make you feel like you're watching real footage rather than playing a video game. Let's start from number 10 and work our way to the most realistic horror experience on this list. Number 10, Grayhill Incident. Grayhill Incident is a survival horror game released in 2023 that leans heavily into the classic alien abduction conspiracy aesthetic of the early 90s. Instead of focusing on action, the game emphasizes vulnerability and atmosphere. You play as Ryan Baker, a man trying to survive in a small rural town that has suddenly become the center of a mysterious extraterrestrial invasion. What makes Grayhill Incident feel realistic is its grounded setting. The town feels like a real American countryside community: quiet streets, wooden houses, dim streetlights, and eerie cornfields. The developers used Unreal Engine to create believable lighting and environmental detail, which helps build tension slowly rather than relying on jump scares. Another element that contributes to realism is how defenseless the player feels. Instead of fighting waves of enemies, you spend most of your time hiding, sneaking, and trying to survive encounters with the iconic gray aliens. The slow pacing and believable environment make the experience feel closer to a disturbing real-world encounter than a typical video game scenario. Number 9, Visage. Visage is often considered one of the spiritual successors to the legendary PT demo from Silent Hills. Released in 2020, the game places you inside a large suburban house filled with tragic history and supernatural events. The realism here comes from its incredibly detailed environmental storytelling. The house feels like a real home that people once lived in: cluttered rooms, family photos, worn furniture, and everyday objects scattered around. Instead of obvious horror elements, the game builds tension through subtle changes in the environment. Lights flicker, doors slowly open, objects move when you're not looking. The sound design plays a massive role as well. Small creaks, distant footsteps, and whispers make the house feel alive in a disturbing way. Visage also uses a sanity system. Staying too long in darkness or experiencing paranormal events will cause the character to panic, making the gameplay feel psychologically immersive. The combination of realistic lighting, detailed interiors, and psychological horror makes Visage one of the most believable haunted house experiences in gaming. Number 8, Blair Witch. Based on the famous film franchise, Blair Witch from Bloober Team transforms the found-footage horror style into an interactive experience. You play as Ellis, a former police officer searching for a missing child in the Black Hills forest. The realism here comes from the way the forest is designed. Dense trees, natural lighting, muddy paths, and environmental sounds create a believable wilderness that feels isolated and dangerous. One of the most unique mechanics is the camcorder. Players can watch recorded footage and manipulate reality by rewinding or pausing certain tapes. This clever mechanic blends gameplay and storytelling in a way that feels organic. Another detail that adds realism is the presence of your dog companion, Bullet. Bullet helps track scents, find clues, and warn you about nearby dangers. The interactions with the dog add emotional grounding to the experience, making the environment feel more alive and believable. Number 7, Karma: The Dark World. Karma: The Dark World is a psychological horror game that has gained attention for its extremely realistic visuals and dystopian setting. Built with Unreal Engine 5, the game takes place in a strange alternate reality where a powerful corporation controls society. What sets Karma apart visually is its cinematic presentation. Character models, facial animations, and lighting are incredibly detailed, making many scenes look almost like live-action footage. The game explores themes of memory manipulation and psychological investigation. Players enter the minds of suspects to uncover hidden memories and secrets. These mind-world sequences create surreal environments that mix realism with disturbing psychological imagery. The contrast between realistic environments and twisted dreamlike spaces creates a unique horror atmosphere that feels both grounded and deeply unsettling. Number 6, Silent Hill: The Short Message. Released for PlayStation 5, Silent Hill: The Short Message is a short but powerful psychological horror experience. The game follows a young girl named Anita who finds herself trapped inside an abandoned apartment complex while being haunted by disturbing messages and a terrifying creature. Visually, the game is incredibly detailed. The apartment building feels authentic, filled with graffiti, broken furniture, and signs of urban decay. The lighting and textures push modern hardware to create an environment that feels disturbingly real. But what truly stands out is the emotional storytelling. The game deals with themes like social media pressure, bullying, and mental health struggles. By grounding the horror in real psychological issues, the experience becomes more relatable and disturbing. The result is a horror game that feels less like fantasy and more like stepping into someone's nightmare shaped by real-world trauma. Number 5, Pools. Pools is one of the most unique horror experiences in recent years. At first glance, it doesn't even look like a traditional horror game. The game places you in a massive, endless complex of empty swimming pools, locker rooms, and tiled hallways. There are no enemies chasing you, no weapons, and almost no narrative explanation. Yet the realism of the environment makes it deeply unsettling. The visuals are simple but incredibly convincing. The reflections on water, the echo of footsteps, and the distant hum of empty buildings create a feeling that many players describe as liminal horror. Liminal spaces are places that feel familiar but strangely empty, like an abandoned mall or a school hallway at night. Pools captures this feeling perfectly. The quiet atmosphere and realistic acoustics make the experience feel like exploring a real location that you somehow shouldn't be in. Number 4. The Complex. Found footage. The Complex. Found footage pushes the realism even further by using a bodycam style presentation. Inspired by internet horror videos and liminal space photography, the game drops you inside an endless maze of yellow hallways, backrooms, and strange architectural spaces. Everything is presented through a handheld camera perspective, complete with realistic motion blur, camera grain, and lens distortion. These visual effects make the game look almost indistinguishable from real found footage. The environments themselves are also carefully designed. Fluorescent lighting, repetitive architecture, and empty rooms create a strong sense of disorientation. Players often feel like they are watching leaked footage from a real location rather than playing a game. This level of immersion is what makes the Complex found footage one of the most realistic horror experiences available. Number 3. Lost Fragment. Lost Fragment is an indie horror project that quickly gained attention online because many people initially thought its footage was real. Built in Unreal Engine 5, the game uses extremely detailed textures, realistic lighting, and cinematic camera movement to create a photorealistic look. Early gameplay videos showed dark forests, abandoned buildings, and body camera style exploration that looked almost identical to real footage. The developer focused heavily on environmental realism. Dirt, leaves, fog, and moisture react to lighting in natural ways. Even small details like camera focus and exposure shifts help sell the illusion that the player is watching actual recorded video. Because of this visual style, Lost Fragment became a great example of how modern game engines are starting to blur the line between games and real life. Number 2. Paranormal Tales. Paranormal Tales is one of the most talked about upcoming horror games thanks to its unbelievably realistic visuals. The game is built entirely in Unreal Engine 5 and uses a bodycam perspective combined with advanced lighting technology like Lumen and Nanite. The result is footage that often looks completely real. Instead of traditional cinematic framing, the game mimics raw camera recordings. The camera shakes naturally as the character moves, lighting reacts dynamically to the environment, and the image includes subtle digital noise and compression artifacts. Gameplay revolves around exploring haunted locations while reviewing recordings of paranormal incidents. Each story is presented as recovered footage from different characters. The developers intentionally designed the visuals to resemble real viral ghost videos found on the internet, which makes the experience far more unsettling than typical horror games. Number 1. Don't Scream. At number 1 we have one of the most creative and immersive horror concepts ever made, Don't Scream. This indie horror game places you in a realistic forest built in Unreal Engine 5, but the twist is in how the game detects fear. The goal is simple: survive for 18 minutes in the forest. However, the game uses your microphone. If you scream, make a loud noise, or panic, the timer resets. This mechanic completely changes how players experience horror. Instead of reacting naturally to jump scares, you are forced to stay quiet and control your fear while terrifying events happen around you. Visually, the forest is incredibly detailed with photorealistic lighting, dense foliage, and realistic fog. Combined with spatial audio and the microphone mechanic, the immersion becomes intense. Many players say the game feels less like playing a horror title and more like being inside a real paranormal investigation where your own reactions determine whether you survive. And that level of immersion is exactly why Don't Scream takes the number 1 spot on this list. Horror games continue to evolve as graphics technology becomes more advanced. With engines like Unreal Engine 5 pushing photorealism further every year, the line between real footage and video games is becoming harder to see. If you enjoyed this ranking, make sure to subscribe to GamesRanked for more lists exploring the best and most fascinating games in the industry. And who knows, the next generation of horror games might become so realistic that we won't be able to tell the difference at all.